Well, hey folks, welcome back to another episode of the Brand Builder Show. And if you want to level up your sponsored brand advertising on Amazon, then this is the episode for you, because that's what we're going to be talking about with today's guest, Michael from Ad Badger. Michael, welcome to the show today. Thanks for coming on.
What's going on, Ben? Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm honoured to have you on. I've been, as I mentioned before we started recording, I've been a long-time listener of the Ad Badger podcast. What is it called? The PPC Den or something?
PPC Den, yes, that's right. Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks for being part of Badger Nation.
I don't know really many other PPC dedicated podcasts at all. So it's a great resource for Amazon sellers that want to level up their PPC game. And so I'm excited, to dive into some of these topics with you. Before we do that, give us a bit of a rundown on your history. What brought you to starting Ad Badger and what you guys do and what you're up to at the moment?
How far back should we go?
Day one, birth. No, as much as you feel is relevant.
Yeah. I think some relevant things are, I started freelancing online, and I started on sites like Upwork, and at the time it was Elance. And I just really liked digital marketing. I liked the fact that it was, helping people. So I would meet a client and learn about them, and they were always doing something interesting and always doing something cool. And then being able to scratch the part of my brain that I'm a bit of a gamer. I grew up playing StarCraft 2. I don't know if anyone's ever played that out there. And StarCraft 1. And it's just a real-time strategy game. It's like chess, where it's you versus the competition. And it's how are you going to use your resources better than somebody else? How are you going to find the next, door to walk through and all these different things? How are you going to respond to these conditions? And I sort of put PPC in the sort of world of technical marketing that really scratches that itch for me. And PPC specifically, I just happen to really enjoy. I also like SEO. But in 2010, I started Search Scientists, which is a Google Ads PPC agency. And we had clients who would ask us to do Amazon stuff. And I feel really lucky that around the time that we got started, primarily as Google Ads, we had sort of this client early, considered early in today's context, where 9 years ago, they wanted to put their products on Amazon and begin to use Amazon advertising to drive even more traffic. So I got this sort of earlier exposure to Amazon ads, and I was able to sort of carry that through. And part of the idea for Ad Badger was, number one, simplicity, to have a company for Google Ads and another one for Amazon ads, make life really simple. But the other thing too was I was using a lot of advanced tools for Google Ads at the time. And then at the time in 2016, 2017, I was man, where are all the tools for Amazon ads? And obviously 2023, it's a different story. But at the time I was just man, I would love to have a tool that did this and did that and did this. So I wanted to create the practitioner's tool for Amazon advertising. And so I started Ad Badger, which is a software company. And I absolutely love thinking about software, building software. It's a incredibly uphill battle. It's incredibly tricky and challenging, especially Amazon. Every time, every once in a while, you'll log on to Amazon's dashboard, advertising.amazon.com, and you'll look at your results, and there'll be a banner at the top of the screen. It's data for this day is coming soon. And it's oh, okay. That's what it's like working with the API sometimes. And that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. That's good. I got to ask, Ad Badger, is there a story behind the name?
Have you seen the viral video? This is one of the early days viral videos about the honey badger. Hold on, let me show. Hold on, I have a book over here.
All right.
Is any of this ringing a bell to you? Honey badger don't care. Nothing? You've never seen this?
No, to be honest. Maybe I'm showing my lack of relevance there. But...
Well, I need to give you some homework. This is one of the early viral videos. It's over 10 years old. And it's just a story about how it's a National Geographic documentary with this badger running around, and he's running into beehives, and he's fighting snakes and biting a snake, and the snake knocks him out. And then after a couple hours, a honey badger gets back up and just scurries off. So it's this sort of indestructible, badass animal. And someone just got me this book, and it's supposed to be a children's book. Honey badger don't care. So that's where, and it also sounds good.
Yeah. And it stands out. It's unique. Isn't it?
Ad Rabbit was actually my first choice because it's like small and nimble, but it was like taken. So I'm like, screw it, go on to the next idea.
Yeah. No, that's class. Good stuff, man. Good. All right. Well, we're going to dive into sponsored brands specifically. Obviously, there's lots we could cover with PPC, and we've had a few guests on talking about just general, campaign structure, bidding strategy, that kind of thing. But I thought it would be good we haven't really had an episode talking about sponsored brands specifically, and in 2023, especially there is like a real need for brands to really lean into this extra branded content that Amazon is providing. So I thought it'd be good to chat that through and get your thoughts on it. Obviously, you would be working with it a lot, but just from obviously the sponsored brands perspective, it's evolved a lot over recent years. I suppose top line thoughts. What does an effective strategy with sponsored brands look like right now, 2023 and beyond, to kick us off, and then we'll dive into some of the more detail of it.
Yeah. So the first thing I did some data analysis before I got on the call today.
Oh, nice.
I knew we were going to be talking about sponsored brands, and there's about 1,100 marketplaces, give or take, on AdBadger. Mm-hmm. And of that, I will give you the ACOS by campaign type. So we've got 3: sponsored products, sponsored brands, sponsored display. Sponsored products is about 30% average ACOS.
Yep.
Sponsored brand is also about 30%. It's literally 30.09 for sponsored products and then 30.55 for sponsored brand.
Nice.
Sponsored display is in its own category. Average ACOS of click-based is 59%. Okay. So sponsored display is much higher. So when we think of sponsored brands in context, I would say most advertisers should use it in a similar manner and similar strategy that they use sponsored products. And that's actually not the intended purpose of sponsored brands. Like sponsored brands, it's for showing off the brand. It's to get new to brand metrics, like all these different things. If you think about it, it's like so perfect for somebody like Nike, who maybe someone doesn't exactly know what kind of Nike shoe they want to buy. Maybe they're not 100% sold that they want Nike just yet. So they're browsing, and you're able to show a variety of products in one ad unit. You're able to show your store spotlight in one ad unit. And you don't need to be Nike in order to get value out of these. But that's some of the spirit that it was sort of created for, to sort of do the brand showcase. Now, with all that being said, whenever we move to the top of funnel like that and we do this sort of brand showcase, like look at all of the products we have, I want to talk about when to do that. And for companies who are not Nike, maybe you have 10 ASINs, maybe you have 20 ASINs. I think the strategy changes a lot. So to sort of think how I think of the quickest, fastest way to get value out of sponsored brands is to really tease out the brand components and try to do it like sponsored products. And what I mean by that is direct response, try to get clicks, try to get sales as quickly as possible. So like sort of shrink the steps to do that as quickly as possible. And you should ultimately end up with an ACOS that's right around sponsored products. And I'll finish that thought by saying, if I look at an account, somebody comes to me, they're like, hey, I'm spending $10,000 a month. And I open up their account and it's almost all sponsored products. The easiest thing that I say is, well, if you're spending $10,000 a month on sponsored products, my bet would be that we could probably increase your budget probably about 40% at a similar ACOS. So like we could probably take this to $14,000, $15,000 a month in ad spend with the exact same ACOS. And that is, I think, the biggest value piece of sponsored brands. Just like whatever you're doing in sponsored products, you can probably do anywhere from 40 to 50% of it in sponsored brands without even getting into all of the extra nuance that sponsored brand brings in. Literally just take the same keywords and hammer it home on sponsored brands. So I think that, I know I keep on saying that I'm going to be done in a second, but I think that right there is the essence of like getting started with sponsored brands and how to really think about it in a clear, direct response, ROAS driven way.
Yes, it's really helpful and fascinating that the ACOS is so similar across obviously a lot of accounts, and so that shows that it's not just those are true. And and tested figures, aren't they? So very, very interesting. You mentioned about, getting started straight away, putting money into sponsored brands. If it's a new seller coming onto the platform, obviously they're going to need a certain amount of ASINs to make some of the ad formats work. How soon, though, should a new seller start sponsored brands? You think straight away, as soon as they're launching a product?
No. I think if somebody, number one, you need multiple products in order to have the ad unit in the first place. With sponsored brand video, you can just pick that one product for that, and that's nice. But I think the thing to sort of think of is, you start with sponsored products because it is the most conversion focused ad type, which is great. So you want to start with that sort of conversion focus. Eventually you can move on to more middle of funnel keywords and still remain in the world of sponsored products, which generally have a better conversion rate. Where people go, so if you're a beginning advertiser, it's very, very easy to go off the rails when it comes to sponsored brands. What I mean by that, there's lots of options and lots of settings that you can get distracted by that pull people away from this direct response. Yeah. What kind of video should I have? That opens up a whole can of worms. You get into, what should my store look like? That's a whole can of worms, which can sort of pull people away from the absolute direct response. So a very easy way to get pulled away is thinking of that store spotlight and thinking of that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't do the store spotlight. Don't do video. The very best brands, the most successful customers we have are all doing those things. But I'm just sort of thinking of the ramp up, the easy ramp up, the easiest, fastest way to get started. Scale your sponsored products, get it to a point where you feel okay, this is good. This is a good sizable amount of spend, whatever it is for your company, whatever you define sizable amount. It's probably going to be around 10% of your total revenue. If you're starting out, it might be closer to 15% of your total revenue, depending on what industry it is. It might be higher or lower. But as soon as you get to that point and you're I feel pretty good, hitting the keywords that were obvious for sponsored products, that's great. Now, all of a sudden, why don't I take those same keywords that are doing well and launch into sponsored brands? In between that step, you're launching, you're going from one product to two product to three product, and then tapping into sponsored brands so you can serve a product collection ad. And in between that step of actually launching those additional products, that is a nice strategy that sits on top of all good Amazon marketing, which is just slowly introducing new products over time. That's a sign of a high growth company on Amazon too, just constantly adding something new, capturing more market share in their category, capturing different ways that people are searching for things, capturing different demand in a related way. And that sort of fuels your brand, which sets you up so nicely for a product collection ad where you have multiple great products with multiple great star ratings. That's a really appealing component to advertising.
So much I want to ask. So many questions that are running around my head. But what I think would be good is maybe taking one of my accounts at the moment as a bit of a case study, because I stripped everything back to try and really improve the ACOS. The main product that we sell with this one is $15. So it's hard to get those metrics to work, and so I've just been doing a lot of sponsored products lately to really get those drilled down, and not really any sponsored brands. So you talking about this is really lighting my kind of brain centers up. Man, there's big opportunities here. So we're spending about $500-600 a day. So whatever that is, about 15,000 a month. So it sounds like I could easily go out there and spend another 6,000-7,000 on sponsored brands for a similar ACOS. What should be my approach with that? Should it just be starting with a video, see how that goes, and then look at a headline ad and see how that goes? Or do you have a recommended approach? Just blast it all out there.
Do you have enough products for the product collection?
Yeah.
Perfect. So the first thing I would do is I would look at your sponsored products. I would look at the search terms where you convert very well, and I would just plaster those into sponsored brands product collection. Don't need to overthink it. So that's absolutely what I would do. And that would probably be, if you throw if you think of your keyword list as an 80-20, so like to look at those top 20% of keywords, giving you 80% of your sponsored brand sales, that is where I would sort of put my focus on sponsored brands product collection.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to get into the store component of sponsored brands, but to keep things simple, that's exactly what I would think. So if you think of sponsored brands, you have, well, actually, this is true for every ad type. Every ad type, sponsored product, sponsored brand, sponsored display, has parts of it which are direct response-y. And when I say direct response, it's like someone searches for the product, they want to buy it, they click on it, they buy it. Direct response. Versus brand-based ads or sort of awareness type ads or sort of further up the funnel type ads. So an example of that within sponsored products might be, I'm selling a mason jar, mason jar 16 ounce. I'm advertising sponsored products for that thing at that time. It's exactly what they want. It's high user intent. You know what they want to buy. They want to buy something because they're on Amazon, and you know exactly what it is. As you move up the funnel and you get a little bit less specific, now it's just mason jar. Well, it's like, what kind of mason jar do they want to buy? And then you go up a little further and you get into like canning supplies or kitchen gear, kitchen supplies. And like you go further up the funnel and you're still within the exact same keyword based exact match sponsored product ad slot. So any ad type has a sort of bottom of funnel, top of funnel thing. So when we talk about sort of scaling back our advertising spend, which is a fantastic activity that, maybe once a year, all advertisers should just sort of audit their own ad spend. It's like, hey, maybe I get rid of everything that I am not in love with. I'll 80-20 my ad account in some way, and I'll just sort of reevaluate everything. And that opens up a can of worms of like how to do that without taking too much off the table. But to your point, when you talk about scaling back, you get rid of those sponsored brands that are more like brand focused, not as direct response-y, as a way to sort of 80-20, and focus more on direct response. So take those keywords, put it in a product collection. That's exactly what I would do.
Do you typically integrate a sponsored brand ads into like a campaign structure in terms of promoting keywords, etc.?
Oh, like, splitting up match types and all that good stuff? Yes. So, sponsored brands just came out with ad groups. As you know, at one point in time, they did not have ad groups, which was really annoying to like build. And as you could imagine, it's like we'd come up with a rule for like campaigns. You click on a campaign, you view the ad groups in there, and sponsored brands didn't have any. And then now they do. So we have to go like redo a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway, that's a gripe. So in general, I want my settings to reflect what's inside the campaign as specifically as possible. So the easiest way to think of that is like I have a campaign budget that I sort of want to be as specific as possible. So I don't want 50 products in a campaign because now the budget is sort of spread out between all of them, unless all of those products are nearly identical and behaving the same. Now with sponsored brands, you don't get the luxury of saying I only want to spend this much on product A, this much on product B, and this much on product C. So you sort of want to think about those as like one unit, like that's as segmented as you can possibly get. So I would not advise to use sponsored brand ad groups, just like one group per campaign. Think of it like that. So when you do that, you generally also want to split that with one targeting type per unit as well. So you have your budget, you have your product unit, and you have your targeting unit. And you ideally want these like to be specific. So I am not a fan of mixing match types. So I would not have exact phrase broad, modified broad all in one spot. I would absolutely split those out. And again, it allows you to say, again, we're talking like direct response-y, high conversion intent versus more research-based, more top of funnel, branding-based. When you insert broad, that's going to behave differently than exact. So those opposite ends of the spectrum, you want to treat these differently, and you're going to want to think in your own campaign structure, how much budget do I want to allocate towards broad? How much budget do I want to allocate towards exact? And that's where the decision comes to sort of set these budgets. Now, you don't need to, do calculus in order to determine what your budget should be. But, you might look at your account. Hopefully you're labeled your campaigns properly and you have broad in all the broad campaigns and exact in all the exact campaigns. And you could just do a quick search of your campaigns to sort of get a sense of like, how much budget am I spending on exact? Oh, okay, that's only 20% of my budget. Wow, 60% of my budget is on broad. I better reel that back. So like having these things broken out allow you to analyze things this way.
And do you treat them the same if you find a search term that's not converting and you negative it in your sponsored product campaigns? Do you do exactly the same as sponsored brand, or do you find that they perform differently?
I'm generally not a fan of like something misbehaves in ad group A, also block it in ad group B that are like different campaigns.
Yep.
I generally like things to live on their own because, there's plenty of weird quirks where like the plural version actually does convert well and the singular version does not convert well. So that happens. I feel like that's happened more and more since Amazon changed their broad match targeting. So in general, I would say don't do that. The thing where I do that, we do this thing here at Ad Badger called n-gram analysis. So it's like if you have, mason jars for cooking in one ad group and it only has 10 clicks, you might not be able to make a decision on it. But then you have cooking supply mason jar and that has 10 clicks. And you can't make a decision because it doesn't have enough clicks. Sometimes you can sort of sum the word cooking in both places and sort of see how the word cooking performs in every single ad group and every single time it's in a search term. So that's one of my favorite activities. And that is where I would do a search term analysis in one spot because it's sort of an aggregate of everywhere where the word cooking is. And then if it's really bad, like if every single search term that the word cooking was a part of it sums up to like 50 clicks and no orders, then I sort of know like cooking is a negative signal and I shouldn't be appearing for anything with the word cooking in it. That's where I might do a negative phrase to just sort of clear that out. But that's the only time I would use data from one ad group and apply it to other ad groups. Is that sort of summed, I call it n-gram analysis.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting strategy, actually, and I can see why that would be quite effective. You mentioned maybe not going too much into the weeds, but it would be good to talk about, your product collection ads, where you're sending people. Obviously, if it's variations of the same product to the product display page, I would imagine, but, your thoughts on going to the store page, going to a landing page, what do you do on that front?
Yeah, so now I think... in the world of, so it's very easy here to get distracted, right? So the thing to get distracted on is getting away from direct response ads. So what I mean by that is if I'm selling, a great example are like industrial supplies. And when I say like screws, there's so many different types of screws with so many different kinds of heads of screws, materials of screws, length, width, weight of screws. It's insane. So like with that, imagine somebody types in, wood screw, Phillips head, something, all about the screw. So they typed in like 8 words to describe the kind of screw that they need. And then they also typed in how many of them they wanted, 20 pack. Like they were so ultra specific. So picture like a 10-word keyword. When you serve that sponsored brand ad and they click on that, if you send them to a store page with multiple products on it, you're absolutely crazy. Because they typed in something hyper specific. This is deep in the funnel. This is high user intent. You know exactly what they want. You know exactly where to send them. You want to send that person to the product page for that product. I think we all understand that. So that's like the direct response component. Where if people get tripped up, it's like, oh, maybe I send them to a store page because, they can see all my screws. That's like, they don't want to see all of your screws. You would take them there if they searched screw Now you have no idea what kind of screw they want. And you can sort of, in your own industry, this is where you sort of have to think, unfortunately. You have to think, I just like simple, like when this happens, do this. But you actually have to like look at the search terms that you're going for and then begin to say, where is the switch point at which I know exactly what they want? So I'm going to send them to the product page. Where is the switch point to where I no longer know what they want? So I'm going to send them to a store page. And, you know, there's a spectrum, right? The 10-word search term describing the specific screw all the way to, you know, even more broad than screw. It would be like, I don't know, home building supplies or something hyper general. You have no idea what they want. So there's a spectrum, right? And then you can look inside that spectrum and determine what is the best store page to send people. So that if they search screw, you know where to send them, because you don't know if they want a wood screw or a screw for metal or whatever. But if they search wood screws, you sort of can send them to your wood screw page. And if they have search, you know, screws with anchors, you can take them to an anchor page. So you can take them to all these different pages based off how specific their search is. And it's kind of what I'm describing is pretty annoying. Like it takes hard work. And you have to sort of think about where the ROI is for this activity. Again, you get the most ROI for the high intent things at first. So like spend a lot of your time there. After you sort of nailed that down, then you could begin to say, I think my campaigns, I want to grow a little bit more. I think I can capture more market share. I'm going to begin to go up the funnel. I'm going to get more broad with my keywords. I'm going to get lower user intent. I'm going to get more non-specific with things. And that's where a beautiful store page matters so much. That's where a really great video matters so much, because now if they search screw and they never heard of you, you can sort of let them know like, oh, okay, like I'm a builder, I'm building something, and like this is the best screw ever. It's never going to split, and like I can find all the different kinds of screws that I'll need, and like they have exactly what I want. That's where that story becomes hugely ROI valuable.
Yeah. It is a lot to think about and a lot to work on, but I think it's really good, really helpful the way you separate those out. And I think listeners at all stages of the journey can really grab something from that. And well, a lot of people that are starting out that are maybe spending $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month, you know, first priority is just that high intent direct response, like you say. And really, because that was one of the questions that we didn't really talk about, because you kind of already answered it in terms of the overall strategy. I think a lot of people coming into sponsored brands think, well, this is about brand awareness. It doesn't matter about the cost because it's just getting them used to my brand. But actually, there are, you know, levels of this, right? You know, there is, like you say, the direct response, which is all about ACOS, driving profitable sales. And that's what most people should start with, if I'm summarizing what you said correctly. And then there's like another level, which when you've really maxed out all of the opportunities with the direct response, and you know you can't really grow too much more other than adding more products. It's a case of now how can we go up that funnel and do some branded stuff, bring more awareness with some more general stuff.
Absolutely. And the most successful people that I work with have that sort of you know, barbell strategy where like they invest heavily on that bottom of funnel, high intent, direct response, let's get the sales campaigns. And then they know the value of going after that sort of mid-top funnel keywords, those more broad, those more general things, those more brand awareness. Those definitely matter. Like there's a reason why, you know, Nike spends $1 bajillion on all of that top of funnel branding, sponsoring athletes, sponsoring events, doing all these things. It's like the definition of like super top of funnel, because ultimately it'll, you know, give people an idea of what Nike means when they make that search. And there's a, you know, there's that varying degrees of benefit for different companies, you know, depending on where you land with your product, who's buying it, and how much thought goes into that purchase. Those things do begin to matter more depending on your type of company. So there's a lot of sort of cerebral conversations to have when it comes to, you know, how much is it worth investing in the brand. I think in generally though, like the brands that do it well are doing it well, and like they're bigger for a reason. So those things I think do matter.
Yeah, definitely. And then finally, just one last thing that may be a bit smaller and less significant, but still custom images. for the spotlight ads. Are you seeing anything in particular work really well there?
This is classic, product imagery that works really well. Like people using the product. It's like visualize themselves using it. I always like that. I think that's the number one, like people using the product. It's why on social media, like user generated content with like some influencer or somebody using the product, a video review of it, like seeing the product actually in use is amazing. So if I'm selling a Frisbee, it's like a picture of like the kids in the yard playing with their Frisbee. Yeah, for sure. That's it.
Yeah. Good. Nice, simple answer. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, that's where it's so easy to get tripped up, because you can literally go in any direction when it comes to a video or a creative. You can go in any direction. So that's where, for me being so like data driven and like I do just want like the if this then that, like tell me when I'm doing a video, like what kinds of things should I do in it? Like all of that stuff is what I look for. Like, oh, it's somebody using the product. That's makes a lot of sense. I don't want the product like floating in space. That's where people like make videos where it's just a collection of their product images, like on a slideshow kind of. And I guess like it's better than nothing, but like in a perfect world, like you're actually using it, like demonstrating it, and people are like, oh yeah, that's exactly, I'm selling, you might not know this way over there. You know about the slap chop? Oh man. Well, people listening will know. Slapping your troubles away at the slap chat is just like an infomercial. That's why infomercials are so powerful. It's like somebody, slapping, crushing garlic really easily. It's like, oh wow, like that's exactly what I want. Or flex tape, or like the big tank where the water's gushing out of it and he just smacks the tape on it. Got to see the product in use.
I've seen that on memes. That one.
Yes.
I'm not so out of touch. I haven't seen that one.
Yes,
slapping it on and getting rid of all your problems with a bit of a.
That's right. It's like, have you tried the power of positive thinking? It's like your life is crumbling.
Yeah. I've seen that in so many, especially in the digital marketing space as well. It's like, good. Okay, just to finish off, where do you see Amazon PPC going next couple of years? Has obviously changed so much in recent years, but what do you see? Obviously, the rise of AI and Amazon's getting more and more mature as a platform. What can we expect over the next year or two?
I think for me I think there'll be a need for anyone doing specifically Amazon advertising. So I think Amazon advertising has been held up as like the primary thing to do to grow on Amazon. I think where sometimes people will skip over some other issues in their company and only look at PPC as the solution. And I think that, the most successful clients that I work with are not doing that. They sort of view it in one compartment, and then they are able to view the overall scope of the business. And I think as a PPC marketer myself, I've really been stepping into more non-PPC areas of growth on Amazon in order to do that. So I think it's becoming a lot more integrated. We talked about brands on this call. I think like those brand signals that you send to Amazon are becoming more and more impactful. So like sending Google Ads traffic to your listing, sending social traffic to your listing, building up an email list outside of Amazon and directing some of that email list to Amazon, like investing in brand assets, like all of these things, like getting good at SEO. All of these things are, becoming crazy about your product quality, doing user surveys and really understanding how people like your stuff. I think all of these things, when we think of the most successful e-commerce brands, I think those things should be creeping into, if you think of e-commerce marketing, there's sort of like the D2C group, which does all those things. Oftentimes they'll start on a Shopify store and then make a decision after millions of dollars of sales, maybe we should go on Amazon, versus sort of the Amazon FBAer who starts on Amazon and then, sort of grows from there. And I think both groups can learn from each other. But I think one thing over the next few years is sort of taking that bigger, broader view with all the thinking about SEO, thinking about brand assets, those things will, I think, become more and more valuable. And yeah, of course, AI to do all those things.
Definitely, that's a whole nother conversation for another day. I know I said finally before, but I did want to ask you, what's your just overriding number one Amazon PPC tip for sellers to take away?
I think my favorite one is, and this one, maybe says a lot about my personality, but I really do think just literally being organized and paying attention is the number one success factor that I see. A lot of people are very knee-jerk reaction to their campaigns. So a lot of people will just look at their campaigns, think something, oh, this is good, this is bad, and then go and take lots of action without like a broader, like, this is what I want to accomplish this quarter, this is what I want to accomplish this month. I see a lot of like sledgehammers or wrecking balls to people's campaigns, like, as opposed to just like meticulous, thoughtful, steady work more frequently, I've always felt does better than just like not paying attention to it for 2 weeks and then like coming in and just like obliterating something and like building an entirely new campaign structure really herky-jerky. I think that's probably one of the worst things that I see. So on the flip side of that, the best thing to do is to really be meticulous. We use ClickUp, and I just love sort of like, what do we do on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis? Just filling all those like routine tasks and then schedule some time for like free thought and like just browse around and like do stuff like that. I think that is the reason I've been successful. I just write stuff down. Yeah, it's really good. And I think so important and underestimated truth, because as soon as you start dealing with high volume campaigns and lots of keywords, it can get such a mess if you're not organized and have a structure of how you operate. So I think, that's absolutely key. Thank you. There's so many things like that in life. I was with someone one time, and it was like the end of the day. It was like 9 p.m. and he took out his laptop and he started writing emails. I'm like, what are you doing writing emails? Like, we stopped working hours ago. And he's like, oh, at the end of the day, I always write thank you notes to everyone I talked to today. He's like, I'm not that smart. He's like, said something along the lines of like, I'm not that smart, but this is so easy to get people to like you. And I'm just like, that's insane. And like, it's such like an easy thing to do. It's like, oh yeah, just like thank people for taking the time to talk to you. And it's like everyone loves this guy. Yeah, that's class. Stuff like that. Amazing. Good stuff. Okay, well, honestly, this has been super insightful, and I know our listeners are going to get so much out of it. It's clear that you do spend a lot of time dug into this in the trenches. Where can people find out more about you, about Ad Badger? Yeah, we've got over 250 episodes all about Amazon advertising. So people can search PPC Den, like the Badger Den, PPC Den, on their podcast platform of choice and find us. Or they can go to adbadger.com to learn a little bit more about what we do professionally. Amazing. Well, we'll make sure we get those linked up in the show notes and description as well. Michael, thank you for taking the time out. This has been a super valuable episode. Awesome, Ben. Have a good one. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys, for listening to this episode. I hope you got as much out of that as me. I got lots to work on. I'm sure you do too. But do join us for the next episode, same time next week. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.